Welcome back, everybody, to Cinema Daily US. I'm Matthew Schuchman, and today we are talking about Christopher Nolan's adaptation of The Odyssey, a film that a lot of people have been waiting for, a film that a lot of people want to complain about before they even see it, like a lot of films nowadays. So let's just jump right into. I'm going to have three categories this time: the negatives, the positives, and the controversies. So let's start with the negatives. I can't guarantee that this was not a case of an issue with the projectionist and or the actual version of the screening that I was at, because I do know that there is an issue with IMAX cameras from the get-go uh, being useful for close-ups because they were eventually built and meant for very large shots of wide open area spaces. And Christopher Nolan had issue with The Dark Knight in that first test footage he shot on IMAX when you first see Heath Ledger's Joker and it's out of focus, but it worked for that. But in the screening I saw, which was in 70 millimeter IMAX at the AMC Lincoln Square in New York City, there was an issue with close-ups of people's faces being able to stay in focus. There's a scene with Matt Damon and Zendaya walking down like a beachhead, we'll call it, and Zendaya's face is hardly ever in focus, and then it comes in focus for 5 seconds, then comes back out. And Hathaway at the end has this really emotional scene where she's killing it, and yet her face can't stay in focus. Now, maybe it was an issue with the way this film was projected when I saw it. I talked to a friend who saw the 70 millimeter digital transfer and said he had no issues with it, but what I saw had issues keeping things in focus. There were some people complaining about, I heard complaining about the sound. Sound was fine for me, but this issue of the IMAX image on close ups of people's faces staying in focus really irked me because I was very happy to finally see an IMAX feature where I didn't have to worry about changing aspect ratios, and instead it was traded off for not having a clear picture a lot of times. Other than that, negatives, yeah, it's a long movie, and I knew it was a long movie. It didn't feel overly long. Like I wasn't trying like, oh, please get me out of here, or let it end or anything like that. I was happy watching it, but getting up after, my body felt my body felt it. And a lot of times while watching a film of this length for the first time, it feels slower than it actually is upon second viewing or actually is in reality because it's your first time witnessing something. So that there is a little bit of a negative with that too. There were some performance issues that I thought were not bad performances. I think Matt Damon did a good job, but there were a few scenes that felt awkward and weird from his perspective. And it comes from, and this should be in the controversy section, but I'll put it here in negatives because I know there's a lot of controversy of people deciding why certain language choices were made. I really don't care about them that much. It did feel weird sometimes when certain words are thrown out. There's actually two F-bombs that I felt really out of place. But I think sometimes when that Matt Damon was doing a more of a traditional colloquial dialect of the current times, it felt a little out of place. But his performance is still good. Do not get me wrong. Also, Christopher Nolan does have a history of people complaining about his action sequences being a little too jumpy and jagged. And of course, in this big IMAX format, that does come off again here in a lot of time. Not all action sequences in the movie, but very specifically the final action sequence of the movie. There are certain things I think people miss. They didn't even see. Like there's actually one kind of like, oh, like a what we'll call a kill, an awe-inspiring kill where people normally would go, oh my God, did you see that? And I think a lot of people missed it by screening because it goes by so quick. It's so like it's so jaggedy and shaky, and you really can't get a good sense of it. So that also does fit into another pitfall of the negatives of the Odyssey. So let's move on now to the positives. Looks great for the most part. There are a few scenes, especially not bad cinematography. It's just the lighting is so like it's jarring when you see flashes of light in that big format, and then you gotta go in back into brightness. It messes with your mind. But other than that, this film it does look gorgeous, and it does really harken back to an old school style that because there are a few CGI items in here because there are some fantastical creatures that do appear. One specifically, not the Cyclops, but one specifically that like you can feel that it felt more unnatural compared to the rest of the film. But if it still works out, it still looks great to have. It's nice to have some grain on my screen again. It's been happening with a few films, not just this one, but it's great to see. The performances for the most part all hit really well. There's some great people in here that I didn't know Corey Hawkins was in the movie. It's great to see Corey Hawkins and stuff, period. even if he's playing a little bit of a jerk. James Remar, a lot of great actors that I wasn't expecting to see that I had a great time seeing. I didn't know that Bill Irwin was playing the Cyclops as well. Always love fun to see Bill Irwin do something. Um, but I think the part of the movie that I took the most from that I was so happy with was now I'm a person who never read the Odyssey. I've seen adaptations of it. I've read cliff notes of it. I know the story, but I never actually read the thing myself. And I think typically, whether it's portrayed in other pieces of media or adaptations that are not, is typically seen as this idea of that physical journey home, that physical fight to get back to what was yours. Um, but what Christopher Nolan did with his script, which I thought was fantastic, is allegorically, not just common times, current times, but over time as a whole, made this great allegory for trying to get back to a piece of society that we lost a long time ago and getting home to that. And I absolutely love that. It was something that really, really sparked a flame in me. And while Oppenheimer was a good film, I don't think it was a great film. I don't think it was the best film of the year that year. This is a better film than Oppenheimer because of the way he. This is the first time in a long time that Christopher Nolan's allegory came out so powerful from the film that it really gave multiple levels to something that you were expecting to just kind of see an adaptation in a lot of ways. But he really made it his own in a lot of sense that way, not taking anything away from Homer, not saying Homer couldn't write something because he's the guy who wrote it, but he really did a great job of putting his notes on it to make it something bigger than I could have expected. And I really appreciated that. There's also some great visual things. I won't try and ruin them all because this isn't a spoiler, I think, because I think people are expecting to see this, and if they know the story, you know the story. But when they do flashback and show you the assault on Troy for after the Trojan horse comes in, they go to open the gates of the rest of the army. When they open those gates, and it's just first this kind of the shining black armor of Agamemnon, it was like, oh, like it's not Aragorn pushing open the doors of the two towers, but it comes close to that feeling of like, wow, there's something special that just happened here for a brief second of visual glory that I really, really love. So you got to give Christopher Nolan again credit for that because I know there's a lot of people. Then as we'll get into the controversies, who are going to complain about the not accurate Greek armor or whatever you want to call it. But it doesn't make a difference because it worked. It worked really well, and I got to give him props for that. Um, so let's move on to the controversies, which will feature both, well, it's feature mostly positives, but could be also negatives and positives. So here are the controversies items that we'll talk about. There are a lot of people who are upset over certain casting items. I don't know why. I don't really care unless I see a movie and they don't work. They work. And whether or not you have a problem with the way people are casted, it's just the fact that people assume something without seeing a movie, and it gets really annoying. Lupita Nyong'o, not only does she do fine in the second she has as Helen of Troy, but the one thing that people want to pick out is her getting kind of angry, like a scene, that clip they saw from the trailer of her getting angry. But that's not Helen of Troy. That's her twin sister. So please stop talking about it. You're wrong. Travis Scott, people were like, making fun of Christopher Nolan for his explanation as to why he hired Travis Scott for the role. The guy's in the movie for 45 seconds, split across two scenes, and I get it. It makes sense. Was he great? No. Did it ruin the movie? Absolutely not. So let's stop talking about that. And then, of course, Elliot Page, where Elliot Page is somebody who, when he was Ellen, had some great roles, but never really blew me away as an actor. And now Elliot in this movie has it's one role, but there's kind of like two sides of it. I won't kind of explain because I don't want to ruin it if you don't know the story, I haven't seen it. But the first version you see is fine. Elliot's doing a great job. No qualms, but it's nothing special to write at home about. However, that second version, not only did he kill it, probably the best performance I've ever seen Elliot ever give. Absolutely incredible. And you'll know it when you see it. And it really hits home, making that whole scene when you see it hits home. And and when I say hits home means everything's perfect. There's also this very mystical aura of another character who I won't say who it is in case you don't know, but the way that character moves in and out of the frame in that section, Oh, it's so brilliant, so brilliant. And on top of that, a controversy that you didn't know about per se is there is one scene in this movie that is the closest that Christopher Nolan has come to horror compared to in Batman Begins when Batman gives the Scarecrow his taste of his own medicine, and he's that black version of Batman with all that black goo coming out of his mouth. It's like take that times a million. And Christopher Nolan really went at it. There's parts of it that I think is kind of comical and a little annoying, but overall, it's like, oh my God, people are not expecting it, and when they see it, they're gonna go, "What is going on?" But with that, I want to wrap up because I don't want to get too talky because I know people want to see this for themselves. So I will give you my final grade at this point. So my final grade for Christopher Nolan's adaptation of the Odyssey is an A minus, almost hitting a B plus. It's kind of right in between there. Is it amazing? Is it an amazingly perfect movie? No. Is it a great movie? More so than I expected it to be? Yes. Is it something I see myself rewatching a lot? No. I will watch it for certain scenes in the future, and I will rewatch it again when I have a chance. But I don't see myself rewatching as much as I will other films, whether they're from Nolan or not. So with that, that's why I kind of give it sliding to a B plus, I think, more than anything else. But it was a great experience, and he did do a great job at adapting it, especially with doing something where he was able to take a story where the gods themselves do have physical attributes in the story, but he took those physical attributes out but still made the power of what was supposedly happening from them still exist. So you got to give the guy. That's why it gets the A minus side of that grade. So thank you for joining me here. I'm Matthew Schuchman. Until next time.